All right, there we go. Well, now since you read the summary or the whole thing, you know what this is about and what the Korean government is on about these days. Fertility rate is low. I think the lowest in the world, if I remember correctly, especially among the OECD countries. And so Korea government is thinking of ways to kind of boost this. And one way they are thinking about is having childcare. As you mentioned, if you do have access to a good pair of hands whom is treated well and paid well, that would help you out with your child and just, other housework too. You might be thinking about having a child more than you would if you didn't have access to that. Well, that's the thought process. However, there's some controversy that's happening as well. You see, the domestic workers who are nannies, well, they want to be paid well. And because they want to be paid well, a lot of parents aren't able to afford it at this point. They might be able to afford like a couple days, maybe like a once a week nanny, but live-in or several times, it just gets harder and harder. So it goes to that more British feeling of some wealthy kids have nannies and most people don't. So they're trying to rectify this, the government, by kind of trying to make a program, sort of a pilot program to help bring Southeast Asian workers to Korea to be paid below minimum wage. The article says near, I believe, but the fact is it is below minimum wage, at least according to the proposition made, below minimum wage so that there's a lot of cheap labor so that parents can afford to hire a nanny. The controversy is very obvious. There has been a lot of evidence in the past that has shown that nannies that are hired at low minimum or below minimum wage or low wages are mistreated. It's also maybe not a good idea to pay someone below minimum wage of the country because that's illegal in the country. But is it okay to do that to foreigners then? Like, there's a big question there. So the need is there, but then there's all these kind of negative things attached to it. And that's where we stand as of now. Can we morally, ethically do this? And is there a better way? Yes, there is a better way, but
I hope so.
Yeah,
my goodness.
there has to be because, at least in my opinion, this isn't it. Now, this is a big question. Do you think Korea is an easy place for foreign workers, people from other countries, to work in and settle in?
As someone who has done it, I would say, yeah, there's a lot of things that make it easier. Koreans are, of all the countries I've visited outside of Europe, Koreans have the highest level of English in general, maybe not in all the cities, but certainly in the major cities that I've ever experienced. I think they're quite happy to discuss their culture, to discuss things. They have great government programs, that help sort of foreign wives or any foreigners who want to find out about Korea, integrate, learn the language, and so on. So I think they are doing quite a lot, to help people settle in. But on the negative side, I think it does depend a lot on your appearance, if you know what I mean. I've had a particularly smooth ride living in Korea, but when I talk to people who look drastically different to me, it's not quite been as easy.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Which we can see that coming up in the article as well. Do you think that there is a best way to learn language and culture? Not just Korean language and culture, but in general, when you went to Russia, when you went, here, stuff like that.
It's the same rule as learning anything. If you're interested in the thing that you're learning about, you'll learn it way easier than if you're forcing yourself to learn something that you're not interested in. So anyone who has a great interest in K-pop, K-drama, Korean food, Korean life, Korean, even if it's like, I don't know, Korean agriculture or anything, you're going to find your doorway into learning the language and culture.
Absolutely, yeah. I always recommend that to students. Find something you love and do it in English or do it in the language you want. And you're going to learn quicker and better. What's your opinion of the government's nanny project?
If I only know what is laid out in the article, and I just think you cannot make some kind of bypass the minimum wage system for foreigners. You can't create a discrimination based on ethnicity like this. You either have to lower the minimum wage for everybody, or you have to keep the minimum wage the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Why are these people less human than Koreans? You can't, no, like you just can't do it. And I think people are going to point that out pretty quickly.
And I think from what I saw, it's not even that far below minimum wage. So I'm like, just make it minimum. I mean, that's still not great, but at least it's not changing rules or being unethical just to save a few bucks. Like, I think in the article it says 1.7 million. And I'm like, just raise it to minimum or do whatever minimum is. I'm actually not sure exactly what it is nowadays. I know they've been raising it a couple times. Just do that, and then there we go. Now we have a lot less controversy.
Yeah.
Still some, but a lot less. Yeah. Anyways, well, let's go ahead and go to that vocabulary down below and kind of memorize it, use it in your everyday life. If you do love this subject, the vocabulary will be easier. If you don't love this subject, maybe find an article you do like and memorize that vocabulary instead. But now you can talk about this amongst your friends and even practice really good vocabulary like settle in, which is going to be great to know for many everyday circumstances. And we will see you in the next article. Bye.
Fertility.
Fertility.
Rejuvenate.
Rejuvenate.
Settle in.
Settle in.
Perspective.
Perspective.
Stance.
Stance.